The Variety Artist, episode 21. This one's all about the best of the best. Episode 21. I've already interviewed 20 amazing guests. To celebrate, I thought I'd do a best of episode. I went through and re-listened to each interview beginning to end. I'm proud to say that each is packed with great information and terrific stories. This one is the best of the first 10 episodes. Next week, I'll be doing 11 through 20. If you've been listening from the beginning, thanks. If you missed some, that's okay. This will give you a taste of what's in each episode. Go back and listen to the episodes you missed. You'll be glad you did. Oh, and make sure to subscribe to this podcast on your phone or mobile device. It really helps me a lot. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. They're offering you, the Variety Artist, a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at thevarietyartist.com/book. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Just go to thevarietyartist.com/book right after this podcast and get your free audiobook. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome to The Variety Artist, providing aspiring artists and entertainers with in-depth discussions from top performers from all over the world. So get ready to book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun with your host, John Abrams.
First up is Secrets of a Corporate Magician, Lou Serrano. So what made you change your career from musician to magician?
Poverty. So after 10 years of being a musician, my last band had broken up. The drummer and the bass player, they're from Louisville, Kentucky. They decided to move back home because they were having a tough time. So the band broke up, and I had been in it for 10 years. I was 29 years old at the time. I thought, you know what? To start all over again is just, this is not a good thing. So at the time, I was completely broke. I had no money whatsoever. I didn't have a career, no job, no education. I was just a musician. It was the lowest point in my life. So at that point, I decided, you know what? I'm going to put this behind me, and I'm going to just try to get a real job and just try to make a living. And within a month of making that decision, I discovered magic.
Oh.
And within a year of discovering magic, people were calling me up and hiring me for parties. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I should turn this into my business. And that's what I did.
Yeah, your story is similar to mine. I was an actor in a previous life. Similar to you, I was broke and wasn't making any money and discovered doing a little bit of magic and got paid for it.
Yeah.
Said, look at that paycheck.
Yes. Yeah, when I stopped playing music, I sold all my equipment except for my guitars. I kept all my guitars, but all of my equipment, all of my amplifiers, I just sold it all. And I sold it all because I needed the money. I needed to pay the rent.
And so did you start out doing corporate magic, or was it something else?
No, I started out as a restaurant magician, which I did that for many, many years. Back then, I thought to myself, you know, when you start performing for your friends and your family, after a while, they get sick of you. They don't want to see any more magic. And if you're going to do that, you have to show them new tricks. So I figured, well, what can I do? Where can I go to be able to perform my magic on a regular basis and get good at it? And I thought to myself, well, restaurants would be a great place to start. So I started out performing in restaurants. At my peak, I had 6 different restaurants that I work every single week. Wow. And it was a great training ground for me to get really, really good, because the first time I did a restaurant, and I should tell you, the first time I went out looking for a restaurant, I approached 7 restaurants. Of those 7 restaurants, one of them hired me.
And you were just cold calling, just showing up and showing them some magic, or what?
Exactly. I was just showing them up, letting them know what I do, even though I had never done it before, but I just faked it. Yeah, so from doing those restaurants, people would then hire me for all different types of events, from private events to corporate events, and you know, early on it was birthday parties and things like that, and then towards the end there, because I did restaurants for 21 years, I was booking a bunch of corporate shows from the restaurants. So it was great training ground. When I first started, I knew 8 tricks. That was it. I knew 8 tricks in my entire repertoire. And so it was great for the first 2 weeks. The first week that I was there, I had people come in and I showed them my first set of 4 tricks. And then they came in the following week and I showed them my last 4 tricks, and they came in the following week. I'm like, I'm out of tricks.
Oh,
and so it forced me to learn a whole bunch of stuff. At my peak, I probably had about 200 routines that I knew like inside and out. And so it forced me to learn a lot of magic, and it forced me to get really good really fast because I was just working from table to table to table. So there was a lot of experience in a very short amount of time. Working the country clubs, I am getting in front of people who can actually afford to pay me for these corporate events, because one of the country clubs that I work at, the people that are members there, they are paying a minimum of $350,000 to become a member. $350,000 to become a member. That's not their monthly dues.
Wow.
That's a lot of money. These people are rich. And so getting in front of those kind of people is where I need to be now at this point in my career. So
what a great lesson that is for anybody listening to this. If you're working a family restaurant, you're doing magic for families, kids, probably booking birthday parties and family events. But if you're doing a country club like you're talking about, Lou, someone has to pay $350,000 just to walk in the door, basically. Then you're going to meet people with money.
Exactly. Yeah.
That can afford you and are willing to pay high dollar.
3 years ago, I retired from restaurants, but at that point, I had been doing a different country club for about 3 years, and there was a guy who had hired me for a private event for his family. When I saw him at the country club, he pulled up in a Rolls Royce, like a brand new Rolls Royce.
Mm-hmm.
I was flabbergasted because he looked just like a regular guy, but he's driving a Rolls Royce.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was that the moment that you said, wait a minute, I think I'm in the right place?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I knew it from the beginning. It just confirmed that I was at the right place. And so one thing that I do is when I do an event and I perform for my client, and I've just done a phenomenal job, the client is incredibly happy, what I do is I take a photo with the client. I then, when I get home, I print up that photo, I put it in a very nice picture frame, and I mail it to the client. Nice. So now the client gets this little gift. It's a picture, and you think it might be silly, but what are they going to do with that framed photo of you and them? They're not going to throw it in the trash. They're going to put it up on their desk. They're going to put it up on their shelf. They're going to put it somewhere. And every time they look at that photo, they're going to say, oh, look, there's me with John Abrams. There's me with Lou Serrano. So the next time that they need a magician, they're not going to go on Google and look up magician for hire. They're going to say, I'm going to call up my buddy John Abrams. I'm going to call up my buddy Lou Serrano and hire that person. And that way you always stay top of mind with that person. I was online one night, and I came across an article that said that if you can do 20 push-ups, that you are a relatively strong person. And I thought, well, I can do 20 push-ups. So I just got down on all fours, and I probably did 30-some push-ups at the time. And I thought, oh, that was pretty easy, so because I work out on a regular basis. I work out about four times a week at least. And so I thought, these are kind of fun. Maybe I should set myself a goal. Let's see if I could do 100 push-ups. And so I figured I'll do 100 push-ups. I want to do 100 push-ups within 2 minutes. So I set that goal for myself, and I'm very big into goal setting. After about a year, I didn't hit my goal. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be. It actually took me about 2 years to hit my goal. But the interesting thing is, I always tell people, how do you create success? Well, you set a goal, you create a plan to achieve that goal, and work on that plan every single day. And when things don't go your way, you adjust and you keep pushing forward. So I had a goal, which was 100 push-ups within 2 minutes. I set a plan to achieve that goal, which was I had my workout program along with my push-up program. And I would do that on a regular basis. After about a year and a half, I had gotten, I think my peak was like 72 push-ups or something like that. Within within 2 minutes. And I thought, okay, I need to adjust my plan.
Sure.
Not adjusting the goal, I'm adjusting the plan. So it took me about 6 weeks, I believe, maybe a little longer, to go from like 72 push-ups to 100 push-ups.
Oh.
I adjusted the plan. So I was able to hit that goal, 100 push-ups within 2 minutes. I was ecstatic.
Sure.
And it wasn't like a contest or anything. It was just something that I wanted to prove to myself, because to me, life is just a game. Everything in life is just a game. And so we set a goal of whatever it is, whether it's in our business or our personal life. It's just a game to make things interesting, make things fun. This was a physical fitness goal that I had, and I turned it into a game. Let's see if I could do it. And I did. And so after I hit that goal, then I figured, what am I going to do now? My push-ups were not perfect push-ups. They were, if you look at my form, it wasn't really proper form. So then I went back, okay, let me try to get 100 push-ups, regardless of time, with perfect form on every single push-up. So that's my goal right now.
That's what you're working on right now?
Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. And even if it takes me 5 minutes to get to those 100 push-ups, that's fine. I'm not going to limit myself by time, but I want every single push-up to be a perfect push-up. Well, many of the celebrities that I performed for came about because of the Magic Castle. I'm a regular performer at the Magic Castle. Many times when the Magic Castle has a celebrity in there, they don't want to be in a regular mix of people. So what they'll do is they'll have private performances for these people, and then they'll call in magicians to do private shows for these celebrities. So a lot of them came about that way.
So a celeb comes, brings his family, so you're performing for 10, 12 people.
Yeah, exactly. In that particular room, I've performed for Johnny Depp, for Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, Reba McEntire, Martin Short. So many people I can't even remember who I've.
So when they call you in there and you show up and you're just going to do your regular show and you see Johnny Depp sitting in the audience, what are you thinking?
The interesting thing, when I performed for Johnny Depp, Steven Tyler, they were together. They were together, and they were there with a couple of ladies. It was just the four of them and me. It was a very surreal experience. I'm a huge Aerosmith fan, so I was more excited about meeting Steven Tyler than I was about meeting Johnny Depp.
Sure.
And the interesting thing is, Steven Tyler, he was emotionless throughout my performance. It's like he just stared me down the entire time. It's like he wouldn't react at anything. I was like, what is going on here? I think he was just like floored, he couldn't comprehend what was going on. And Johnny Depp was just the coolest. He was so cool. He just was very complimentary, and he's just a really nice guy.
Next is from episode 9, How to Build a Thriving Entertainment Business with Carmen Tellez.
So I took north. I didn't know my north and souths back then either. I took north and ended up off of Cherry Street, which is downtown LA. And and it was late at night, and I had my little sister with me, and I had a 82 Buick Regal, two-tone metallic. So it kind of looked like, sort of gangster back then.
Yeah.
So here's these two little clowns at a gas station, and I had to choose either talking to some cholos or a homeless person that was just kind of kicking it by the wall to ask how to get home. Both cholos told me two different ways. I chose the way of the cuter one, and that's the one that got me home.
There's a lesson. The cute cholo is the one to follow.
Not all the time. So I got home, and my mom bought me a cell phone, and my dad showed me how to read a Thomas guide.
Now, when did you start the agency? When did you start doing it with people and have sumo suits and puppet shows? And
I started that right away, too. See, when you work at the print shop, at the print shop that I worked at was Sir Speedy Printing. There's only so much that you do in-house, but there's so much to printing. There's name tags, there's balloon printing, there's forms, there's what's called bindery, where you complete the printing process either in book format or other formats, stuff that you don't do in an actual print shop if it's a small print shop. So you outsource it. And when you outsource it, you mark it up because the outsource company gives you an industry rate, and then you mark it up so that you can make a profit for providing the service to your customer. So the very first time that somebody contacted me I was at a park, and it was actually like a little competition. This gal named Irene, her and her clown boyfriend at the time were at a party just maybe maybe 100 feet away from us. And so I bring out the parachute and she takes out the parachute, and I'm kind of like checking out what she's doing, and she's like checking out what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, no. So I had the kids laugh. I said, laugh really loud, because I wanted it to look like our party was having more fun. Sometimes the kids, I'm like whispering, laugh really loud, and I'll give you guys a prize afterwards. So they're laughing. I'm like, oh, and I'm clapping my hands. I'm like, clap your hands. I'm like, yay. And I can hear her trying to, get her stuff going. So afterwards, she came to me and she says, hi, I'm Noodle, and I'm Doodle, and this is my boyfriend Noodle, and together we're Noodle and Doodle, and do you ever hire other clowns? And I'm like, no. But right away, the wheels in my brain were spinning like,
of course.
And she said, oh, because we work for this company, Abba Azad, and she said, how much? I said, well, how much do you charge? So she told me, and I'm like, at the time it was $35.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, $35 an hour. I said, no, I can't pay you that. She goes, oh, but it includes both of us. I said, I can't pay you that because that's too little bit. I said, I'll pay you $50. I'll pay you $50.
Yeah.
And because back then I was only charging $75 an hour.
Was that like 1809 or what,
yeah.
What year was that?
1994, the year of Kuna Matata. I would go to Target and to Walmart, and I would put my business cards into little kids' shoe boxes of the dress shoes, because my thinking was, if parents are buying dress shoes, they're either going to a party or, a funeral, but how many kids really go to funerals? They're mostly going to a party.
Yeah.
So I put my business cards in little kids' dress shoes at Walmart and Target, which isn't an effective way of marketing, but I thought it was smart at the time.
Did you ever get in trouble for that?
I didn't get in trouble, but I did get told to stop. So I stopped. One of the ladies at Walmart, I was just going in, and so I switched gears. I didn't do that because I thought, okay, maybe that's too sneaky. So I started going to newspaper stands and putting in a quarter, taking, and it was only on Sundays because the Sundays had the funnies back then.
Yeah.
I take all the newspapers out, and I'd put my flyer in all the funny sections, and then put all the newspapers back, including the one that I bought. That way they can make the extra quarter.
Oh, very smart.
And then I started doing that at pediatrics doctor shops. I'd go into doctor's offices, and you know how they have like the little magazines and stuff. I'd put like little game sheets on the table with my information on it, stuff like that.
From episode 3, working with tech companies with master magician Dan Chan.
That's one way that I actually got some really great media. The BuzzFeed video got 19,000 views in 3 days.
Oh.
And I emailed a BuzzFeed reporter, but I emailed them something very specific. He wrote about a company called Palantir. He was quite interested in that company, so I emailed him saying, I perform for Google, Intel, Oracle, IBM, and Yahoo, and Palantir. And I left that at the end, and I said I recently performed for them, and he immediately got back to me. So I was like, that was the buzzword.
So you're sending out an individual email specifically to BuzzFeed, specifically to one person?
Yes.
That's great. I know a lot of us send mass mailings to mass groups of people to get mass amounts of work, as opposed to what you're doing, which seems smart. Sending one email to a VIP to get yourself mass quantities of promotion.
Yeah, and I didn't do it really directly. I actually did it kind of indirectly. I told him something like, would you like to crash some Silicon Valley parties and talk about the high-tech scene? Because I knew it was more a tech reporter. So I offered to bring him into one event as my sound person. And I just said, you learn how to do 3 or 4 sound cues and you can crash an event with me. And he was okay with it.
So did he? He went crashed an event with you and did your sound?
He did my sound, and he actually helped me do some iPhone magic as well.
Next up, episode 8. How do you get to Broadway? Danny Taylor will tell you. What happens after that? I mean, you moved to New York.
Right. So I moved to New York, got that off-Broadway show. And from there, that sort of afforded me the luxury of being able to get around to the Broadway shows. So what I would do is I joined the union as soon as I got to New York. With that union membership, you also get access to all the contact information for every musician in New York that's part of the union.
Oh.
So with that contact sheet, I then started looking up every Broadway show, and I looked up every drummer and percussionist for those shows, and I contacted every single one of them. And I would ask if they needed a sub. Broadway world, it's very common where a player will take a night off and they need somebody to cover the show. So a lot of people get their start by subbing on shows.
Ah.
So I emailed everybody and said, I'm new to town. I'd love to come sub for you. And if not, I'd love to at least come hang out in the pit and observe. Almost everybody welcomed me in to at least watch, which was really incredible.
That's an amazing strategy.
Yeah. It was, for one, I learned something every time I sit in a pit. I still, when I'm in New York, I will still try to go sit in orchestra pits just because you're always going to learn something when you're in there. And plus, it gets your face out there. It lets the other musicians see you and meet you. And there's a lot you can do, especially now through Facebook and Twitter and all the digital marketing you can do. But there's really nothing that will ever beat face-to-face time. Almost every theater in the country is much bigger than anywhere else in LA or New York. That was one of the things that blew me away going to New York, is the Broadway houses are really very small. Oh. The backstages are small, the houses are small. And when you come from touring, these are huge houses. I think the theater we're in now is 3,100 seats.
Oh.
It's just these massive places. In Los Angeles, we played the Pantages for 3 months, and that's a huge theater.
Yeah.
But compared to New York and Broadway, the Broadway houses are really tiny.
Huh. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was always surprised about that. And the backstages always change. For touring, the person that's sort of kind of in charge of making our show fit in each theater is it's a position called the head carpenter. And so they get a diagram of the stage before we get there, and they have to decide how we're going to fit in. And sometimes we've got plenty of space, and sometimes we have no space. So they'll hang set pieces in the air when we're not using them, and they find all kinds of creative ways to make sure we can get the show in somehow.
Give us a little taste of one or two other pieces of advice from beyond the gig.
The biggest thing that I stress and say probably a dozen times throughout the lecture is be on time. It's the old adage, early is on time is late, and late is fired. So sometimes I think it sometimes says late is unacceptable, but for me, I change it to late is fired, because it very well can be.
Yeah.
It's different being in the arts for being on time, because, it's one thing to, maybe work a 9-to-5 desk job. And if you're late, maybe you don't get as much work done that day. Whereas if you're late to a performance, you've got 3,100 people waiting to see a show that can't start until you're there.
Oh, yeah.
And beyond that, it's kind of, it's disrespectful to the fellow players that you're with, to your other artists. If you're in a studio, it's costing a lot of money if you're late. Kind of planning to be on time. It's not just showing up on time. It's, making, for a drummer or percussionist, we've got so much gear we have to set up. It means you've taken into account traffic, and that you're going to have to set up, and how long is the load in from the parking lot to the orchestra pit. Making sure that you've done everything you need to do so that when it's time to play, you're sitting there 5 minutes before, calm and relaxed. Because the other thing about being late is there's no way you can really perform at your best if you're stressed out about showing up late.
He's from episode 7, the School Assembly Market and More. The variety artist, I give you Doug Shear. So when you're putting together a new show with a new theme, how do you come up with that theme?
My approach, and if you look at my website is laid out the same way. I believe there are curriculum-based programs, which are going to be the things that kids learn in class, be it history or science or math or whatever. And then there's character-based programs, which kind of encompass everything else, be it the bully proofing or be it the conflict resolution or be it the diversity or one of those programs. And my character shows all evolved basically out of what was going on in the world. I did a show about life skills and basic character stuff for a little while. I started doing the show, and that show kind of came about in a funny way. I was in an elementary school once, and a principal says to me, "Hey, I need your life skills show next year." I said, "Well, yeah, that's great, but I don't have a life skills show. You have me confused." He goes, "You have 1 year," and he hands me a 3-ring binder, okay? And he goes, "This is all you need to know. And this is going to be huge." And this guy was a big fan of mine, and he's like, he wanted to help me out. He's like, "Trust me, put this together, and it's going to be a big thing." I delved into it, and I put together a life skills show, which is like the character counts program and the pillars of character and that kind of stuff. So I did the character show for a while, maybe a year or two, and then Columbine happened. Oh. Yeah, and then after Columbine, nobody wanted the life skills show anymore. Suddenly, it was all about bullying, and so that show morphed into a bully prevention show using character traits to keep the kids bully free. At the time, I was already doing a conflict resolution show based on some information I got from another school performer, a guy named Joe Romano. I met Joe a zillion years ago, and Joe had a really big contract with AT&T, and he was doing a conflict resolution show. He said to me, an unknown guy, because we kind of met over dinner in Atlantic City once, "Hey, you should do a conflict resolution show." And I'm like, "Oh, I probably should," because I was looking for new programs to add to my repertoire. So I went home and I researched that, and I put together this show called Less Trouble Problem Investigator, which teaches the kids 4 simple steps to solve problems. Turns out, I did that show once to a school. The teacher walks up, she goes, "Oh, this is crazy because I'm going through marriage counseling right now with my husband. This is exactly what we're doing in marriage counseling."
Perfect.
It's communication skills. It's iMessages. It's simple communication skills. So having that show in my back pocket and having this bully show, which resulted as a result of the current events, gave me 2 character shows. I kept those running for a long time. Then all of a sudden, the Twin Towers came down. Mm-hmm. And now it morphed into tolerance and understanding other cultures and acceptance of others. In the schools, they were teaching that. And so that is what segued into me developing my diversity circus show, which has kind of been my flagship show and what a lot of guys know me as, because I finally released it on video, on DVD, and I put it together into a graphic novel. And so that's part of the package that I sell as well, so guys can see what I do. Yeah, but it's an improvisational exercise too, which they teach actors. You know this. You were an actor. Yep. It's the yes, and. If you're doing improv with somebody, you never negate what they say. You say yes, or you agree to it, and then you build on it. That's a lesson I think all performers need too. If a kid gets on stage, or an adult gets on stage, or anyone, something happens in the show, you can say no to it, bring it to a screeching, awkward halt, or you can say, "Yeah, sure," and just roll with the punches and see where it takes you.
I love when those crazy things happen with the kids. It used to, when I first started doing this, it used to bug me when a kid would come up and not do what I had in my mind. That would
right. Yeah.
But then as I matured and as I got older and realized that those are the little gems that we ask for. We should use those.
Yeah.
They're little gifts that someone is giving us.
Your job now is to make those little gifts recreated in every show naturally.
If you can.
If you can. Well, I'm big into stage cueing. I'm big into telling kids what to say. I'm big into letting kids deliver the funny lines. For instance, in my reading show, we have a problem on stage, and I tell the kids, "Oh my gosh, I've got a problem. Oh my gosh, what do you do when you have a problem? What is something you can do?" And the kids, the line they're all thinking in their head is, "Well, you go to the library, ask the librarian." Oh. So I turn and I look at the kid, I go, "What would you do?" And she's on stage with me, and she says, "I watch Dr. Phil."
Oh,
which makes the teachers basically wet their pants and spit drink out of their nose. And I actually had that happen one day, and I almost wet myself. And I'm like, now that's part of the show. Now I just tell the kid, "That's what you say." But she threw me for a loop but she was serious. Because she goes home every day and Mom's got Dr. Phil on at 4 p.m. It's so funny. So yeah, you take those gems and you savor them and you stretch them and you massage them and you make them part of your show. I met a magician once. I met a magician at a magic convention, and he was a school show guy. And he says, yeah, you know what I do? I do 2 tricks with an educational message. And I tell the kids, hey, you were really good for those 2 tricks. Let me give you a reward. Let me just do a trick now that has no message whatsoever. And I'm like, what? What? Were your 2 tricks that you did so miserable you had to reward them? You're doing something wrong. You hit the nail on the head. You have 45 minutes with these kids. And if every message, everything you do in the show should be driving towards your message, reinforcing your message, driving the plot of your show forward, or you're reinforcing something the teachers have said, or reinforcing something you said. The guys that I do a couple of educational messages in my school show, but you only have 45 minutes. That's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's so much you have to cover. Why would you waste 6 minutes just doing a sucker trick or something that's just going to get the kids screaming and yelling for no apparent reason? Here's a sneaky marketing trick that I have done. Every September I do this. I put a fake name on I do bulk mail, but I put a fake name on the front of every envelope. So it says Corrine Johnson. Attention, Corrine Johnson, so-and-so elementary school. And it says PTA after Corrine Johnson's name. Typically, junk mail will go in the garbage unless it has a name on it. Well, Corrine Johnson is not someone who exists in that school, but guess what? The secretary doesn't know that because it's brand new. It's September. Maybe Corrine Johnson is a new mom that she hasn't met yet. I better put this in the PTA mailbox because it says PTA. Okay? So instead of going in the garbage or actually having to have a legitimate name on that envelope, it goes into the PTA mailbox. So that goes there. The PTA has a set budget. Typically, they don't get their budget, though, until maybe mid-October after they started their first fundraiser and had some money come in. But the principal typically has money, too, whether it's grant money through a Title I or some kind of budget he or she has. So typically, the September shows that I book are usually booked through the principal over the summer, because they're trying to start the school year off and they got some money to spend. But then as the school year progresses on in, it's typically the PTA or the PTO or the PTEIO or whatever name they have that will book you. For reading month, most of the time, I would say probably 60 to 70% of the time, that falls on the lap of the media specialists. So if you're doing a reading show for Read Across America or March is reading month, you want to target those people. It's funny, with the economy changing and the money people being tighter and tighter, I used to market and book a whole year in advance. Now, if I market like in January, I'm marketing for my March shows about 2 months in advance because people hold the money close to their chest and they're not ready to spend it yet.
Yeah, I found that too. In fact, I think it was February this year, I started to panic because I was looking at my May and I was thinking, I don't have very many shows booked in May. And then all of a sudden they started coming in March and in April. Earlier this month, I've been booking tons of shows for May.
Yeah. Go figure, right? But I think that's what it is. People are afraid to spend their money like they used to. It used to be, let's book them all in September. We'll book 6 assembly shows. We'll get all the money spent in September, then we're done with it. Not anymore. They hold it closer to their chest. So in terms of marketing, it's constant. It's a constant contact. It really is. It's a great name for a company because you have to be in constant contact with them. And if you tell them, hey, listen, election month is coming up. It's November. Take my American history show. Great for November. Or April is actually Earth Day, so you can do your environmental show then. I'll even go so far as making up a month. Hey, did you know that May is math month? Oh, it is? Yeah, you better book my math show. I read that somewhere.
Oh, that's great.
Why not? Right? They don't know. I don't know. They don't care. They're going to enjoy the show. Everyone's happy. Who cares?
From episode 6, How to Work the Fair and Festival Market, it's Becky Goodyear.
The people are so appreciative. Oh. And, a lot of these little places, the kids save all year for the fair because this is the big deal. Some of these little fairs, they buy a pass and you see the same faces every single day. It's just the big entertainment for them.
Well, so sometimes as entertainers, we forget those things that, we're doing it all of the time. So to us, doing a show sometimes is no big deal. But like you're saying, some kids, they save up for the entire year and they look forward to this the entire year.
Yep.
We need to respect that and know that we are affecting them in a wonderful, amazing way.
And being the smaller shows, like I am, and you would be considered a smaller show instead of this huge stage show production, we actually have contact with them. We talk to them, we shake their hands, we say, hey, how you doing? Did you like the show? Hey, you were a great helper on stage. And the kids remember that. Man, I come back to a fair that I've been at the year before, and the kids will come running up to me and say, hey, remember me? Remember me? You know.
Of course I do.
Yeah. And the little fairs, I just love them.
Do you have any advice for the beginner, the person that's just getting into the fair and festival market?
Yeah. Be patient, be flexible. If I had to keep it really short, many years ago, I think this is really huge because this information has stayed with me for many, many years. We had a lecturer at the Orange County Magic Club, and I never forgot it because he talked about the value of having another professional critique your show. Because so often we self-produce.
Yep.
And we miss important things that can make our show so much better. Maybe something you shouldn't be doing, maybe something to add. And I'm not talking about a friend or a family member who's going to tell you what you want to hear. We need somebody who doesn't have any skin in the game, and they'll be totally honest with you. And yes, that is scary, but it's really worth it in the end. You need to make sure you have a product they're going to want. Make friends with the other entertainers. They can be so helpful. Do not be a lone wolf. You need to get to know them because they're going to tell you places that you could slip up or things to watch out for. Maybe they've been doing that fair for several years and they'll give you a heads up on things. Case in point,
yes.
There is an entertainer and I just love him. I don't know him that well because our paths don't seem to cross that much, but his name is Steve Hamilton and he is called Steve the Pretty Good. He's a magician, but he's so much more. He also does strolling and crazy things. Well, he was walking across the fairgrounds one day and he stopped to watch one of my shows in progress, and it was the farm show with Virgil. I was singing and making a balloon chicken at that moment. He caught up to me later and said, why don't you, when you present it that it's finished, be shocked because it lays an egg? And I thought, oh my gosh, so simple, very effective, and I wouldn't have thought of doing that in a million years. I started doing that. I got one of those wooden eggs,
yep,
and I palm it, and it drops out of the bottom of the chicken. The kids go crazy.
I'm sure.
So, and I would never, had I never taken his advice and listened to him and gotten to know him a little bit, it never would have happened.
My very first guest on the Variety Artist podcast from episode 1, how to book 60 library shows in 5 minutes, showcasing with Ken Frawley.
When I decided to get in, I went and watched a lot of shows.
Oh.
I went and saw magicians, puppeteers. I was a children's music artist, but I went and watched how other people performed with children. And I took little bits from a magician and little bits from a puppeteer and little bits from here and audience interaction. And I watched a variety of children's music artists, found a style in an artist that I really liked, and I kind of mimicked that style as opposed to the other ones I saw.
Sure.
Ultimately, I came out, the very first year I came out in the library showcases, I did Orange County Showcase, and I got 48 shows that year.
Wow.
But I was prepared.
Sure.
I didn't just come onto the market not knowing how to relate to the audience, not knowing what I was doing. I came in prepared. I got 48 shows. The following year, I booked over 90 shows.
That's great.
Within the first 2 years. And for me personally, I book probably over the last 20 years, an average of 140 or more shows. Just for me personally.
That's great.
So,
and one of the nice things about that, too, it's not just 140 shows. Even if you don't showcase the following year, most of those, if you do a good job, will repeat.
That's right.
So when you're calculating, gee, what is the cost of the showcase, or what is the cost of the directory, or what is the cost of whatever you're putting out, multiply that out, because you're going to have that same... I have libraries I've been doing for 20 years.
Yes.
So if you multiply that out times 20 years, my initial investment was just the showcase.
Come to the showcases.
Yeah.
Come and sit and watch your competition. Come and sit and see how this thing works. Come and walk around the expo room and see what people are doing and talking. Network with the artists. You'll find children's and family artists are some of the nicest people I've ever met in any business anywhere.
Yeah.
You can walk up, you can talk to them, and most of them are perfectly willing to give you some advice or insight on what you could and should do if you want to get into this business. It's a great way for you to see where you stand as a new artist in this marketplace. You can learn about pricing. There's so many things you can learn about.
And one of our friends, Billy Bonkers, was telling the story the other day. He went to 2 different showcases before he showcased. And he asked questions, and he saw the performances, and he talked to librarians. And then by the time he actually performed, he was ready to perform. And he booked how many?
30, 40 shows.
30 or 40 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiply that out.
That's right. And here's the problem for a new artist, and they don't think this thing through. If they showcase at Orange County and they're not ready, it's 5 years before they get on again.
That's right.
5 years. I have performers multiple times coming to me saying, man, do I wish I would have waited a year before I applied to Orange County. Do I wish I would have waited a year.
Because then they'd know better what to do.
That's right, because they bombed their first year, and now it takes 5 years before they ever get another chance again.
Right.
At least with our showcases, it's every other year. And we have that same 2-minute scenario at the end. Almost everyone that stays, I've yet to have a showcase where everyone that stays doesn't get 2 minutes at the end to give a pitch for themselves. Every year people can get on stage if they just stay till the end of the day. And new artists can get on for that.
Here's another little bit of advice that this year in one of the showcases, somebody didn't show up. So I got a 5-minute spot. I originally wasn't slated for the 5-minute spot, but I did have a few props in the car and a couple of things. My advice to anybody out there, even if you're not showcasing and you are showing up at a showcase, come prepared with something to do just in case, because you never know what can happen. Tell us what makes a good showcase. What makes a good 5-minute spot?
Well, from all the years of talking to librarians, they've got a couple comments. So I'll give everybody basically the formula. The librarians don't want a lot of talking or exposition or you telling them how wonderful you are or how wonderful your shows are or how much the children love your shows. They don't care about your opinion.
And they may or may not believe you.
That's right. They just don't care. Basically, they do like a little bit of exposition at the beginning, saying, "Hi, my name is John Abrams, and I have Animal Magic, and I am a magic show with live animals, and here's what I do."
Bam.
Bam. You've got 15, 20 seconds of exposition. Then you pull out your little chinchilla that is just terrible because everybody loves this damn little thing. Forgive me, chinchilla, wherever you are. I like you too.
He's in the other room. I'll put some earplugs on.
You pull out animals. I mean, come on, Jeez.
It's animals and magic.
Animals, that's right. That's right. So then you go in and you do, and I've watched you showcase. You do it. You go in and you say something basically like that, and then bang, you do 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 little things. But generally, I think you're limited to 3 in what you normally do.
Yeah, if you can fit it in.
Yeah, if you can fit 3. But I've seen you fit 3 things in what you do. And as a magician, 3 is a good number.
Yep.
And they've got to be good things. And you do what I always want the Dream Shaper artist to do. You do things, your best things. You do things that are going to get the audience engaged. You do things that the audience are going to call and respond to you. You do things that the audience are on stage performing with you.
Right.
A lot of performers, they get up and just do their thing. The audience isn't involved on or off stage. You might as well just lock the door and walk away. It's just, you're not going to get work. I mean, you might get a show here or there if somebody really liked what you've seen. But if you do a showcase and you don't get, 10 bookings, you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
In your showcase. And then at the very end, you always follow it up with 5 or 10 seconds of, "Hey, I'm John Abrams. You can see me at this table over here and come and book me for the summer." A call to action. Small exposition, great demonstrations, a call to action at the end, and you walk off.
That's it.
And that's the basic formula for doing a good showcase.
From episode 2, getting your website to the first page of Google, SEO with Pete Ellison. what are some good ideas for after the show?
Well, after the show, you definitely want to be able to send them a thank you for having you out there. And I believe that thank you should stand alone. You should have the thank you note, and that's it. And praise them for everything they've helped you with, and we hope you've had just this wonderful experience. Then, a week later, send oh, by the way, I was just thinking, I would really appreciate if you could help me by telling me how I did, good, bad, fair, poor, and maybe we could share that with other people.
Gotcha.
And that stands on its own because it's yet another touch point, as they call it in the business. Having that on its own doesn't take away from the thank you. See, everyone's expecting that they're going to get a feedback form the day after. That's right. What they're expecting. They're not expecting you to give a no clause thank you, just to go, hey, just thank you. We always thank them at the event anyway, but it's nice to be able to get that email. And then to have it be a little farther out, not so far that they don't remember, but, a week out, send the note and say, hey, I was just thinking, it would be really cool if you could help me out with this, and I would love to hear your feedback. And then, solicit the feedback at that point, or if you're going to ask them to go through another hoop, like give you a review of some sort, that would be the appropriate time to do it.
Right. Now, here's a strategy that I use that can help people too. Here's what I do. Right after the show, the following day, they get an email saying, thanks a lot for, the show. Thanks for inviting me to your school or whatever the event is. But in that email, they also get a link that they can hit that shows a funny little video of me saying thank you. It's a silly little video. And it says, you will be receiving something in the mail shortly. A week later, they receive something in the mail, a little gift from me thanking them. So now that's 2 points of contact. Not only the 3, actually. They first received the email saying thanks a lot. They click the link. They see a funny video of me. And then they're expecting to receive something in the mail. And they do receive something in the mail from me. From episode 4, Murder Mysteries and Performer Philosophies with Eric Sharp.
My one life motto I have is always have a good motto handy. I think that's a good motto. No,
it's a good motto.
Yeah, always have a good motto handy. No, my other one is let inspiration move us to action.
Let inspiration move us to action.
Right. So 1, you got to let it. So you got to get out of your own way. 2, you got to be filled with it. You got to be for whatever that is that fills you with love and joy and delight, and then you share it. I always say, first, if you look at the Hermetic law of rhythm, you breathe in and you breathe out. When you breathe in that love, light, and laughter and joy that God wants to fill us all with. And when you breathe out, you share it with the world. So that's kind of how I like to think of it, is a relationship with the divine and with your fellow human beings.
Nice.
Magic is a bridge. It's a connector between human beings. And when you can take a grown person and through magic and mystery and this interactive element, create a connection, we all become kids again for a few minutes, and it's really something. It's my favorite part.
Live theater, especially interactive theater, is so much fun. Just what you're saying, when you're interacting with the audience.
Well, my theory is guys like you and me that have a sense of wonder and joy, especially with magic, let's say, we're bursting to share this with an audience. I go through moments where I binge learn magic. I will learn a routine and I go, oh, I can't wait to show this to one. I just can't. I'm bursting to share this because it delighted me so much. So, I mean, that's the difference between a good performer and a great performer. One of the key ingredients is the passion to share. Mm-hmm. To share something, to share this experience, to share what you fell in love with about it with them.
Yeah.
And then you're always of service. You're always being useful. Your goal is really the hospitality business. It's not about, oh, look at me. It's not about, oh, look what I can do. It's about trying to be useful to them.
And finally, from episode 10, How to Be Your Own Booking Agent with Jerry Goldstein.
I want to leave your folks and you with like one thought to help get you going in the morning. And this is like something that I often say, to artists to think about, like before you have your first cup of coffee, before you get out of bed, if you just ask yourself the following question: what can I do today in the service of my art that can make a difference in someone's life tomorrow?
Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure to join my Facebook at The Variety Artist, where you can ask me to ask questions of our future guests. Also, you can get a hold of me at john@thevarietyartist.com. Now go out and book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun.
That's all for this episode of The Variety Artist, but your journey continues on our website. Go to thevarietyartist.com for more strategies, insight, and resources, as well as show notes on today's guest to assist you in your career. We'll see you on the next episode of The Variety Artist. But until then, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.